Ladies and gentlemen, we are at ground zero for breaking news in the hockey world here on Thursday, June 16, 2022, as Shea Weber, captain of the Montreal Canadiens, has been traded to the Vegas Golden Knights 1-for-1 in exchange for Evgenii Dadonov. Now, obviously, we are 99.99999% sure that Shea Weber is never playing another game in the NHL ever again, unfortunately, due to recurring injuries. But it is still a huge deal that has lots of cap implications, long-term IR implications, and things like that. And I think that this is a slam dunk for both teams. This is a trade that made very much sense for both sides. As a Canadiens fan, it hurts, but I'm also happy. And from an objective point of view, I do think that the Canadiens get the edge in this trade. Now, let's break it down. Shea Weber, he has signed that massive contract after the Predators matched the offer sheet that was given to him by the Flyers back in 2012. He is signed until 2026. He has 4 more years at a cap hit of $7.857 million. However, his actual salary is only $6 more million through the next 4 years. So, regardless, that's a big cap hit, but money-wise, it was never a huge deal for whichever team had his contract. Now, Evgenii Dadonov, now part of the Montreal Canadiens, has 1 year left at $5 million as a cap hit, but is receiving $6.5 million as salary. So now the Canadiens essentially are paying $500,000 more to get a player that will actually play and will not have to deal with any longer-term repercussions, as this year will be one and done, maybe even sooner if they were to offload Dadonov as a rental to someone else around the deadline. Now, going back into the history of Evgenii Dadonov, he's been on Vegas for how long now? Was it one season after Ottawa? Yes, he was only on Vegas for 1 year, but the Vegas Golden Knights tried to trade him at the deadline to the Anaheim Ducks. It did not go through due to a big hubbubaloo about the modified no trade clause, which teams could he go to, who filed the list, who messed up this and that, essentially canceling the deal. He stayed with Vegas, did quite well actually, and teams knew that Vegas was on the ropes. They knew that they were trying to dump him and would probably have to give up a draft pick to get anything in return. Now, on the other side, the Montreal Canadiens were also thinking we might have to give up a draft pick if we want to get rid of Shea Weber's contract. It's not a big deal right now, as the Canadiens are not spending to the cap. However, later down the road, let's say in 1, 2, 3 years, when they are starting to have to give these larger contracts, it could become a bigger problem, as well as the fact that Carey Price, unfortunately, will likely end his career on the long-term IR. Now, I hope that he doesn't, but Carey Price does have 4 more years, making quite a bit of money, so he's gonna get paid either way, and the cap hit remains at $10.5 million. So I was listening to what Kent Hughes, general manager of the Montreal Canadiens, had to say, and he essentially said that they're kind of banking on that being a reality. Who knows if it's going to be sooner rather than later, but at one point or another, it's pretty likely that Price will be on long-term IR, whether it be for a period of time or to end his career. But either way, they don't want $20 million tied up in two players who are not playing. Because it's not franchise mode. $20 million is $20 million. It's not a huge deal maybe for one of the richest franchises in hockey, but it does still limit, to a certain extent, the type of players that Montreal would want to be bringing in 2024, 25, 26-ish. If they're paying $20 million to players who aren't even on the ice, that would be affecting the players that they would want to be getting out there when they are going to be playoff contenders. Maybe not cup contenders, but they'll be pushing for the playoffs by that time, when guys like Suzuki, Caulfield, etc. are all going to be getting into their own contracts that cost money too. So getting Dadonov, great player, had 43 points on Vegas this last year, had a good end to the season. Last couple years have been so-so. He's shown great flashes of brilliance when he came back from the KHL. His first 2 years back with Florida were fantastic, 65 and 70-point seasons respectively. He's a sniper who has great playmaking ability as well. I think he's often thought of as a sniper, but really, here's this year of 25 goals, 22 assists, 13 goals, 7 assists, but he has shown the ability to really be able to be a strong passer as well. Shea Weber, what can I say about Shea Weber. It's, it came to the Canadiens in that trade for PK Subban in the summer of 2016, and now just about a couple of weeks away from it being 6 years later, the Canadiens trade him away. Definitely a win in that deal for PK Subban, I believe. Maybe Subban will even come back this offseason, I don't know. But he was a fantastic leader with the Canadiens. He did well. He got his points. He got his hits. He blocked his shots. He was a leader. He led the team, was the heart and soul of that team with Carey Price in the Stanley Cup final last year in 2022. And it's just unfortunate that the last time we see him on the ice is losing in the Stanley Cup final when everyone knew that this was probably it for him. Now, just going through some tweets as well, Puckpedia does well to summarize what happened here. Be sure to check out Puckpedia for other information on salary caps and cap hits, long-term IR, stuff like that, as well as an article that I wrote for them on LTIR in franchise mode, how to fix your rosters for that. But essentially, Vegas removes $5 million as a cap hit, replaces it with a $7.86 million cap hit, and now gets LTIR, long-term injured reserve, essentially allowing them to go over the salary cap. So effectively $5 million less as a cap hit, and they save $500,000 cash. The Canadiens are spending $500,000 more in cash, but now they have, they're out of long-term IR commotion and prison next year, and they get an active player instead of an injured player, as well as flexibility over the next few years. Shea Weber is also the winner in this one, as he's going to be taxed way less, one of the most taxed, if not the most taxed place in North America, to one of the lowest taxed places in North America, going from Quebec to Nevada. So that'll be great for him. But really, the Vegas Golden Knights are just happy to have their salary cap space because they've been having a lot of difficulties. They've already used picks. They've already used some prospects. They have Jack Eichel costing a ton. They have Mark Stone costing a ton. But they want them to be healthy. If they're at full health, Alec Martinez is at full health, who's on LTIR. If Robin Lehner is at full health as well, then they're in some issues here. But LTIR allows them to remove $5 million active dollars and replace it with 7.857 LTIR dollars. I might be wrong with the exact numbers, but just to say they are definitely going to be going over the salary cap and allowed to do so within the confines of the rules of the NHL due to having Shea Weber on the LTIR. Who knows if they even slap, Nolan Patrick on there, another $1.2 million. That will be extremely helpful for them moving forward. They also have the contracts of Riley Smith and other players expiring, so they can spend to the salary cap in free agency, slap Weber on LTIR, and then spend even more, which will allow them flexibility at the deadline and so on. Although their picks are starting to dry up, they may pull a Florida and use all the first and seconds in the next couple of years, but it's very helpful for Vegas. They save a little bit of money, although now they have to deal with Weber being there for the next 4 years. If they run into more injury problems, Eichel, maybe not Eichel because that seems to be an injury that's figured out, but Mark Stone has had a lot of injury trouble. Pacioretty's had some injury trouble. I wouldn't be surprised if Martinez has another stint on there. These are players, even the Robin Lehner, these are players who will probably be in the mix as well. And yes, Vegas is a very lucrative franchise, but this is, again, these are dollars. These are dollars that are just flying out the window. So it's a calculated risk right now. Yeah, you get Dadonov off the books. You save money with Shea Weber, but you got to really hope that your players stay healthy and that your gamble pays off, a la Tampa Bay Lightning with Nikita Kucherov, where they'll be able to add players, go above the salary cap, and then make that crazy run while you have your players, before Pacioretty's contract expires, before other players start to get later into their careers like Martinez or whoever else, and there aren't as many picks to replenish them. That's going to be very interesting to see on Vegas. A lot of people are Vegas haters. I'm not necessarily a Vegas hater. I'm interested to see what they can do, especially from an expansion point of view. They've paid a lot of prospects and picks to stay competitive. Now, will that come back to bite them in a few years, or will they be able to maintain the level that they have played at despite missing the playoffs this past season? So again, as a Canadiens fan, it hurts a little bit. This man, Shea Weber, literally gave up his body for this franchise. The things that he went through just to be able to play just etches him in history just alone. It's great to get Evgenii Dadonov, and we have that flexibility, but it's still sad at the end of the day. Now, here's the interesting part. The Canadiens get Evgenii Dadonov, 1 year left on his deal. On top of this, the Canadiens still have, obviously it's still the offseason to go, but they will have more cap space than last season for sure. Guys like, little contracts, Perrault, whatever, expiring. There will be more money to play with next season. Drouin coming back, I don't know how it's going to work, but it will be more. Now, the Canadiens don't need that money right now, and they are able to have the luxury of not being a competitive team, and they can flip these players on expiring deals. There's only a couple players on expiring deals, Dadonov and Byron. Now, next season, do they become hot commodities at the deadline? It all depends on the trade market. But Dadonov, absolutely. On a team where he's going to be playing top 6 minutes, on a semi-cheap deal, especially with 50% retained, he would only cost $2.5 million. Absolutely. So trading Shea Weber to help out Vegas, who are in a jam, in exchange for Dadonov, who's going to play well, make the fans happy, maybe even become a fan favorite like Tatar, who knows, and then likely, I really don't see him finishing off the season, likely get flipped in exchange for, who knows, even if it's a second-round pick, a first-round pick, a third and a prospect, whatever, he gets flipped for something. So you get rid of 4 years of Shea Weber, even though it wasn't crazy expensive. You get your LTR flexibility in case Price needs to go on there, and you get a little bit of guarantee in Dadonov, and you get some potential in picks and or prospects that may come your way, and you can develop them into something else. So I see that as a big win for the Canadiens, on top of Vegas getting what they need right now. Now, is it a win long term? We don't know for Vegas, but I'm quite certain that I can lock in this is a win for the Canadiens long term, whether or not, even if Dadonov doesn't get traded and he plays the whole season and Canadiens finish last and he goes to free agency, I still see this as a win for the Canadiens because they do not need Weber to be used for LTIR right now. It is not necessary, and we don't need to get later on into, okay, Price is now also LTR. Well, now we really got to get rid of Weber, and now we need to give up a pick and or a prospect to dump him. No, you dump him now when Vegas is also in the same situation, but the opposite end spectrum of things. And I just see this as a win-win. I like it for the Canadiens more because of the long-term win, but it is a win-win nonetheless. Dadonov's going to do well in the Canadiens as a top 6. He's going to get fed like an animal. He's not going to be buried third line with Vegas. He's actually going to be first, second line with the Canadiens. He's going to get flipped most likely, I think, for picks. And at the end of the day, Weber's getting much more money. He's taking home more money with less tax. And he is allowing Vegas to keep their window open. Nevertheless, he's the winner. He's the big winner here for sure. It's sad that he can't play anymore, but I'm happy that he'll be able to take more money home in his retirement, less taxes, less of a burden. A lot of fans in Montreal saying, "Oh, where's Weber?" This, at Guy Lafleur's funeral, "Oh, where was he? He came on the second day, not on the first day." Oh, well, what kind of a captain? The man's in BC, lying on the couch with his millions of dollars, enjoying his acres of land with his family. Give the guy a break. He was across the country. It's tough to be the captain of a team across the country, though there will always be that connection with the Canadiens, but it's going to make much more sense on the West Coast, getting paid more, helping out Vegas, being involved over there, which will be a lot more local, still far from BC-ish, but much more local, while it just makes sense for all the teams. So I'm kind of going in circles right now, saying the same thing. The take-home messages, it makes sense for both teams. I think the Canadiens are very happy for that long-term flexibility, plus the potential of what Dadonov may turn into. Whether he even be a piece that is re-signed and stays long-term or what, he will still be something rather than nothing. And say what you will about getting Dadonov, whether or not he's done, whatever, had not so good of a season. It was more because of the awkwardness of them trying to trade him to Anaheim than anything. I think that they felt desperate. I think teams knew that as well, because look at this, 81st percentile of wins above replacement, 82nd percentile of offense, 44 of defense. Okay, that's nothing special. Goals per 60, 74th percentile. Drawing penalties, 78th percentile. Solid stuff. From 2020-21 to 21-22, yeah, the offense has been pretty consistent. The defense has gone up. The finishing has gone up. The defense is nothing special, but at least it's gone up. That's a good point to consider, especially when thinking about if you're going to flip this player or not. Teams are going to want that at the deadline. So whether he stay on the Canadiens or move or what, this is a solid player right now, and the Canadiens are happy to pick him up. It wasn't just dumping Shea Weber and having that flexibility. It was picking up a good piece that may even turn into more good pieces. So I'm going to stop right there. Quite the bombshell in the NHL, especially as a Canadiens fan. So let me know your thoughts. Who wins this trade? Who loses this trade and why? Or is it an even deal? I'm looking forward to seeing all your thoughts down in the comments and talking with you all some more. Hope you're enjoying the Stanley Cup final between the Lightning and the Avalanche here in 2022. Get ready for the next franchise mode series coming out here on the channel, here on NHL 22 as well. So make sure that you are subscribed so that you are made aware of when those uploads go live. Leave a like if you enjoyed this analysis, and I invite you to take a moment to check out the channel. Aside from NHL 22, lots of other hockey breakdown analysis type videos and much more that I'm sure that you enjoy. So I invite you to do that. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this one, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next one.